And welcome back to the European LCS. I'm Quickshot, joined here with Wunder, the top laner for G2 Esports. First of all, congratulations on the win. Before we go further, talk to me about Ornn, because we've been seeing a lot of sort of carry top laners taking off, but you really stepped up on Ornn today.
Yeah, I think Ornn is a pretty good pick in this meta. Like, it was really OP back 4 or 5 weeks ago, but since then it's gotten like nerfed a bit, and the playstyle of a lot of the teams has been changed to like more these split push champs or more these champs that can impact and carry the game actually from top lane. But Ornn is still a really strong pick, and especially when Braum is out, it's gonna be pretty good that my ult can't be denied and stuff like that. So yeah, I like Ornn, and it's a tank, so we needed a tank this game, and the other top laners were kind of banned out, so that's what I defaulted to.
Defaulted to the tank, definitely showed up. Wunder, you're on a 6-game winning streak now. This is the first time we've actually interviewed you after a win. How does it feel to be on G2? Because the split started very shaky, but over the last 3 weeks, you guys are looking better and better.
Being on G2 is definitely fun. Like, I've been playing on Splyce for 2 years now, and the same players over and over again, interacted with them, and I'm definitely learning a lot playing with like 4 new guys now compared to Splyce. So playing on G2 is definitely like a new adventure for me, and we started off pretty rough, and we're still not the greatest team yet, even though I think a lot of the European teams right now are struggling quite hard. So we can definitely keep up and be the best team, and that's kind of what we're aiming for right now.
I really like hearing every time we speak to a member of G2, they always say we can do better or we made some mistakes. What does the future hold for you when we look towards the rest of the split and we look towards playoffs?
Well, I think the future for me is kind of like I really want to perform internationally and go international. So I don't really care about how well I'm doing right now in Europe, even though it's of course great, and there's still a lot of great top laners in Europe that I can compete against. But I'm looking internationally, and that's what I think G2's goals are as well, and our vision's kind of aligned there.
So that means obviously you're going to win Spring Split, so you can go to MSI. What would success be for Wunder and G2 at MSI?
Well, for me and G2 at MSI, like, I've never been to MSI personally, and G2 has had one good MSI and one bad in the past. So, I mean, it will be just in general good to like perform at the international stage, Worlds, MSI, stuff like that. Where G2 in the past has like gotten out in groups and
been on vacation,
like
as it were.
Been on vacation, yeah. There's a lot of things going on with G2 and international events, but I'm definitely looking forward to that kind of aspect in the ELCS and the league scene. But that's like my goals.
And of course, you're going to get there first. Got to win Spring Split. Look, congratulations on the win today, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
For now, we're going to head back to Sjokz at the Analysts.
Thank you very much, Trevor. As you said, you got to win Spring Split first. Deficio said the exact same thing. Obviously, it's nice that they're looking forward to that. They have goals that are on the international stage as well. But indeed, you got to win the trophy in Europe first.
If you're G2, you're so used to winning. Yeah. You're already looking past Spring Split, even with new players. But I feel like there's some teams who can compete against G2 for that title.
We'll see. But G2 now, the roster rebuilt around Perkz is doing really well. And that he is, again, player of the game. Perkz, 63% of the vote. This guy's on fire, man. What else is to say about it?
So yesterday we were discussing MVP candidates, right? One of us had Perkz.
And the other one had Gilius.
The other one had Gilius. Maurice,
yeah,
will you put Perkz in your top 3 MVP candidates?
Yes, I would now. Definitely, because like he has shown consistent performance and he's always been the carry of G2, and especially on Zoe. Like I haven't seen anyone have that kind of impact on that champion, even though it's obviously maybe slightly too strong right now.
Sweet music coming from Maurice now.
I love that you guys are agreeing. Before we move on, it's our last match of the day. Are you seeing a trend? There's a certain nationality in the crowd today, and certain teams with that nationality on their team have won. Unicorns of Love.
Except for Sejuani lost, but I guess it was Dane versus Dane.
Yeah, Dane versus Dane.
That was 100%.
And the next match, there's a Dane on either side. So
how many
2 Danes on Fnatic.
Yeah.
That's just not how it works, man.
Yeah, obviously that's not how it works,
I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
Welcome to the joke. All right, our final game of the week is a clash between Fnatic and Splyce. After watching G2 dominate the EU LCS over the last years, Fnatic's eyes are set on the throne. And with their 4-game win streak, things are looking good for the old champions. We talked a lot about will they connect. They're a bit disconnected in the first weeks. Now, it seems like they've clicked. What's changed?
Well, first of all, they realized you don't have to go side lane with your AD carry. What actually happened was Rekkles and Hylissang together.
Yeah, they
overextended. They got caught. They died.
Doesn't work?
It doesn't work, funny enough. So instead, they put Rekkles in the mid lane now. And then they start team fighting much more, which is actually super successful for Fnatic to just play 5.
Play as 5 and play as the tandem that is caps and Rekkles.
Yeah, definitely. Like the two together, just the damage output and just control the gift to the team, because the tanks don't have to worry whether or not they should engage, because they have so much backup for them that every engage is probably a good engage at that point.
Yeah, yesterday.
Two best carries.
Two carries yesterday versus Sjokz. Also, it was caps that went off on Corki. It was basically highlight reel. Okay, we talked a lot about Nuke Duck not doing the right thing in lane, but caps ran with it.
I mean, when you get ahead as a Corki, and then later on when he managed to land like great poke into a kill on Upset into Baron, and then the big team fights, like he's doing everything he should do. And that's the awesome thing for Fnatic is, again, it's no longer just a Rekkles show in terms of being a big carry. Caps is 100% in there right next to him.
And I want to look at that same dynamic for their opponent Splyce, because Kobbe was the guy who was dealing all the damage and basically carrying most, if not all, of the load for Splyce up until now. But yesterday, we saw Odoamne. We saw the Odoamne that we're used to saying, I would say, in a couple of years, in the previous years. He was much stronger, and it showed that those two together are a force to be reckoned with, and it's working.
Yeah, someone got the defibrillator there, because like he was definitely wrecked in that game, and he definitely seemed like his old self, because for him, it's just so important to actually be part of the team. And I think that's a change we have seen in Splyce to a certain extent, that he has stepped up, but also the team has stepped up around him and made him part of like the early plays and the early map movements.
Yeah, so this was the fastest game of the split, by the way, versus Giants.
I'm still hesitating a little bit on the carry Odoamne, just because yesterday was such a stomp. Like, Giants fell apart completely, and of course that was because Splyce played super well, but I just want to see a few more games of if they want to play the Camille and the split push style, if they can execute that, because I think if Splyce wants to beat Fnatic, it comes down to team fighting for me. It doesn't come down to Odoamne winning the side lane all game long. I think they have to utilize Kobbe as the big carry.
Well, yeah, it comes down to the consistency of not only the side lanes, but them working together. So would you put your money more on the rotations or the, I would say, confidence of Rekkles and Caps right now to fight in those team fights? Are they unbeatable when they are on a tear?
A Fnatic side?
Yeah, versus Splyce.
Ooh, I think Fnatic's team fighting is really good when they run a lot of engage, which is what they've been very successful with. But I think at the same time, Splyce have been good at kiting back for Kobbe. So they might actually try and go like engage versus disengage in late game fights, and then it just comes down to who can execute the comp better. I just think Splyce's best win condition is going to be Kobbe in late game fights.
Yeah, some Zillion in there maybe. Just make it basically enabling Kobbe to a certain extent to actually have him the late game carry, because I still don't think that Odoamne is going to beat sOAZ, because he has historically even struggled against him. So for me, I don't think any kind of 1-3-1 combo is going to bode well for them. But a teamfight combo where they actually still outscale and play to the identity that is still existent is going to do well.
Yeah, we're waiting just for a second to get the players set up on stage. So when it comes to this matchup, I feel like it's going to be a lot closer than what we've seen beforehand, because Fnatic, yesterday they ran away with the game, and then it's very hard to say how good they are in different phases of the game. I did get the side that the players are ready, so you guys can talk later. The stage is set for our final game of the week. Let's head over to Vedius and Pyra and hit the rift.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. Now, let's not waste any time. The players are ready to go, so let's pull up our starting lineups. On the blue side today, it is going to be Fnatic, and they are definitely finding themselves some serious form. We talked about G2 Esports, Vedi, getting themselves 6 wins in a row. Fnatic have had 4 so far.
Yes, Fnatic are hot on their heels, and they're looking to join G2 and Vitality at the top of the tables. We heard a lot of confident words from Caps last night on PGL. Let's see if he can put them to the test as they go up against Splyce on the other side of the Rift, who had the fastest game of the split against Giants yesterday.
Splyce, the late game guys. No, not this time. They had the early game, and the man I'm keeping my eyes on is Odoamne. What a PogChamp player, dude.
Oh yeah, this guy had a great performance yesterday. Will the team continue to allow him to be the split pushing carry, or will they bring him back with the rest of the team? Will they make him go up against the team fighting strength that Fnatic have been able to demonstrate over the last few weeks? I'm a lot more excited for today's matchup than I previously was, because when you think of Splyce, you always think, oh, they're late game, they're super focused on basically their AD carry, they're all about stalling, but we've now seen a new Splyce. We've seen a style that Splyce has typically not tried to play, and that's what makes me riveted and looking forward to seeing how they handle the powerhouse of Fnatic.
I'm looking to see what they handle the draft with. Fnatic starting off on blue will have the first ban of the game. You might want to start thinking about taking away some of those power picks. The kaSing Zillion is already removed. I was literally not even looking at... Yeah, there we go. Well, I got Rocket right today.
over here. Wow. So,
I think they should ban the Camille, too.
Oh, you think they should ban the Camille?
I mean, I don't want them to, because
I mean, it's also just a very strong champion in the current meta.
Hey,
oh, my word. Pyra, I
Woo,
called
2
you a
for 2.
color caster at the start of the day. It looks like you're living up to the name right now.
You gave me some
Do you
credit
want to
here.
take a guess at the third one?
I'm going to quit while I'm ahead, so I still look like a genius.
That's fair enough.
Back over to you. I'm done color casting
All
for the day.
right, so Tom Kench still up and available. That's always a safe one to ban away. A bit of respect going over towards Xerxe. His most played champion is Sejuani, but Zach is very hot on its heels behind him. So it looks like Fnatic, they want to likely draft themselves an early Jarvan, given that that seems to be one of the go-to comfort picks of Broxah.
Yeah, it's really fitting into his style. The engage, of course, pretty big for him. And now Xayah's banned away, so no combination of the birds down to the bot lane. Now there is the Sejuani for a Broxah picked up, so that also takes away Xerxe's most played.
Yeah, it looks like that they're trying to put him on perhaps something he's not as comfortable with. We've seen him bring out the Skarner and the Ivern so far this split. Wasn't a massive fan of the Ivern, but he did have some interesting plays on the Skarner. Unfortunately, he did lose that game.
Skarner was a flash in the pan here in Europe for sure.
Definitely
Maybe it could come back. Splyce taking their time down to the wire here. They decide to lock AD carry first. It's a Varus for Kobbe.
Now, this is something that we've seen from Splyce, early rotating a powerful AD carry to put Kobbe on. Not the Caitlyn this time round. They feel confident that it's not something that Rekkles will look to play. And by getting themselves a strong laner down in that position, they're already setting up Kobbe for success.
Xerxe mixing it up, still contemplating. 3 seconds on the clock. It is, in fact, going to be the Jax. This will be his first. Taking a crack at the champion.
Yeah, often considered a good pick into many tanky junglers because of the freedom that you have, being able to farm up. You're very reliant on that Trinity Force that is pretty expensive, so you basically just want to be uncontested in your own jungle, but also you're very good at those early skirmishes against these tanky junglers.
Yeah, and it's kind of the Xerxe style, right? I mean, he's been a power jungler. We haven't seen him as much in the lanes of Splyce throughout this split so far. Let's see if it makes out for them here. Fnatic already locking in the Ornn for sOAZ.
Now, for those that may not know, last week, sOAZ got 2 solo kills and 2 solo deaths on the Ornn by running Ignite TP rather than the Flash. He did eventually swap it out, but he did have some pretty impressive performances on that champion, but it was his team fighting that to me was the most impressive. You got to keep your eyes on this man up in the top side for Fnatic and how he impacts these later fights that the analysts praise Fnatic for so much in the early game, or in the later game, sorry.
Yeah, the Braum is also locked in, and Odoamne goes towards the Cho'Gath immediately, no hesitation.
It's still a bit of a carry. You still have that ulti, but I think Splyce are focused on getting themselves the tank. Wouldn't be surprised if we now see the Tom Kench band coming out from Fnatic. Often considered to be a good pick into the Braum, but already today we've seen a Janna from Roccat being picked into these supportive style supports. So I wouldn't be surprised if that also comes out from the side of Fnatic, showing respect towards kaSing and his preference towards these range supports.
And for Splyce, trying to ban out all the hyper carries they can find in the client up against Rekkles, talking about showing support, or showing respect, I should say, there up against that team. Very standout player, Rekkles always is and has been. And it is the Tom Kench band away.
Phew, glad I could get a couple of predictions right.
You got it, there you go.
Wouldn't want to be outshone. But now we're looking at Splyce. Do they want to continue banning away some of these AD carries? Thinking about some of the others that are left available, Sivir could be another one.
It's a Rekkles
Facilitate,
pick for sure.
yeah, certainly would be. Offers, or it facilitates very nicely with the engage the Fnatic already have for themselves, and is a great team fighter.
So where does this leave Fnatic? They've got one more ban, but I also want to think about what Rekkles is going to do. Maybe the Ezreal?
I feel like Fnatic, the best ban for them right now would be the Janna. It kind of limits Splyce and what their options are. They would kind of be forced into something like a Morgana pick, which we did see yesterday from Vitality, but instead Fnatic is saying, you know what, we'd rather play against a Janna than a Morgana, so we're going to ban that one out instead.
Okay, so now it is back over to Splyce. We'll see what they do in fact pick up. It's worth mentioning Nisqy still doesn't have his mid laner. Likely looking to pick that one last.
Fnatic also delaying their mid lane pick till very later on in the draft. No priority on the Rise, the Azir, the Zoe. The 3 most contested mid lane champions in the current meta have all made it very late into the second half of the draft.
Everyone's going to get one.
And I imagine Fnatic will look to get themselves probably, I want to say, the Corki to match up with the Ezreal. Offers good poke, nice siege, offers that good scaling in terms of the AD carry. But instead, maybe I can't quite predict this final one for Fnatic.
It's always going to be a hard one to go. Caps. I think that Corki would make a lot of sense for this team. As you mentioned, it's going to be locked in. So Vedius, you yourself have some solid predictions on the day. kudos to you, my good man.
Now, what does Splyce round things out with? Because, again, you still have a lot of the power picks available. They could go for something like a Galio if they wanted, perhaps having a better performance than NukeDuck did yesterday. But Caps has said how confident he is in the matchup specifically. Instead, they're just going to go for standard. They're going to put Nisqy on something that he's played a lot of this split. He has struggled in many laning phases, but he's just going to stick with the scaling Azir and combine that very nicely with the team fight damage that Varus has. A lot of DPS over time, rather than insane burst in the immediate vicinity.
All right, team fighting for Splyce in the later stages of the game, of course. That is definitely playing more towards the later comfort, and they're going to have some pretty beefy tanks as well between that Xerxe and that Cho'Gath, and even a little potential to play on the side lanes if Xerxe so chooses. For Fnatic's side, that's a lot of poke and siege you mentioned. Seems like they're not going to have too terrible of a fight either.
Nope, I think both compositions have pretty good team fighting. The only thing I'm a little doubtful of is this Xerxe. How much value is he going to have in these later game fights? And how easy is it going to be for him to lock down some pretty mobile carries in the form of a Ezreal and a Corki, especially when they have the protection of a Braum, who is very effective against Xerxe because of how easy it is to apply those passive stacks. So looking forward to seeing how things work out. We're going to be having fights this game, Pyra. Unfortunately, I'm expecting a slow early game, but I've said that about Splyce in the past, and they've been able to surprise.
Well, they certainly did yesterday up against Giants. Fastest game of the split. Maybe they can make some more changes, and that man on your screen, Odoamne, was a big part of it. This time, though, he's on the Cho'Gath. I don't know how much early action we'll be seeing up towards that top side up against the Ornn, but you never know. And these junglers want to get involved a little bit early as we get on to Summoner's Rift the last time to close out week number 5.
Caught a quick glimpse there of Xerxe in the crowd. Hello.
Old Fnatic player, among several other roles.
I do believe he is a part still of the Fnatic organization, offering support as part of the crown today.
There we go. More than one ways to support.
Yeah, it does seem like that. So now we will be jumping onto Summoner's Rift. I've noticed a trend, Pyra, that every time people play against Fnatic, they always draft Fnatic skins. Down the bottom lane, kaSing once again going for the Fnatic Janna. In the past, we've seen many Fnatic Gragas's. And I just wonder if it's like a statement piece, being beaten by your own skin.
I mean, a lot of teams have tried to do the same thing against SK Telecom
And
over
they
in Korea,
failed.
and they have a lot more skins to choose from.
That's very true.
But yeah, see, I don't know if it's going to backfire. That's the thing. I thought you were going to say whenever a lot of teams go up against Fnatic, they lose.
Well,
because that's happened 4 times in a row.
That is also very true. And we've talked a lot about the early game dominance that Splyce had yesterday, and this was just some cool tweets that we saw from some of the Splyce members. Man, we are so good at the early game.
You left out a critical part, XD.
Oh, the XD.
Yeah, that changes the meaning entirely.
Well, definitely a great performance from Splyce. Can they look to replicate it with the comp that they have? I don't feel like they'll look to try and make any big early game snowballs. Down in the bottom lane, they have a pretty strong duo in the form of a Varus and a Janna, but it's kind of hard to go for those kind of dives, especially when you are paired up with a Xerxe and the range support, and you're going up against a Braum. So I doubt we're going to see a huge amount of early action there. If anything, again, ganks are likely to happen in the top lane. When you have tanks, you have a lot of utility to set up for your jungler to do damage and secure those kills, at the very least some summoner spells, especially the combo of Sejuani and Ornn. A surprising amount of burst can come out in these early levels. So if we're going to see ganks, I would imagine it will be towards the top side, and it's often a trend that we've seen from Broxah in recent weeks as well.
Very true, pairing it up with sOAZ now. I wonder if Xerxe will start to answer that. You talked about his propensity to kind of power farm it out, and especially on the likes of a Xerxe. To be able to do that, he really will be happy being sort of uncontested in his own jungle, but he's packing some CC as well, so he could lock down sOAZ without Odoamne's help.
I'm looking forward to seeing if he chooses to go towards the top side. Right now, he's doing a pretty standard clear. The other thing I want to take note of here, Pyra, is look at the severe lack of unsealed spellbooks that we have currently on the Summoner's Rift. Nobody is running it. After the nerf that did happen on 8.3, the cooldown reduction seemed to be big enough of an effect that people are now moving away from it. We're seeing some innovations. Hylissang actually choosing to run the Glacial Augment. Does give you that slow on your basic attacks, adds a little bit to the utility that Braum already provides, gives you a bit of extra sticking power. Looking forward to seeing how he makes this work for himself. Also, we see Grasp of the Undying up in the top lane for sOAZ. So he's not going to be running Ignite TP this time around, Pyra. Going to be going a little more standard in his matchup against Odoamne.
Yeah. So he could be in for the wet noodle fight up towards the top. Now, Xerxe is actually making moves into this jungle. Let's see if he just goes for some counter jungling, or if he wants to try and get a pick off. Broxah, meanwhile, counter jungling his way up, and he's moving towards the top side. Let's see if he finds Odoamne out. That's a slow walk. He might have to burn his flash. But he dodged a little extra damage. The flail of the north is on, and let's see if he can get it. He's already getting battered and bruised, and he gets stunned up under tower, but they can't follow.
And this is the gank we talked about, Pyra. If we were going to see any action, it would be towards the top side. And it looks like the Broxah wants to try and extend this record for sOAZ, because you can see 12 wins to 18 losses is Odoamne's EU LCS record against the top lane veteran. These two have battled it out multiple times, but it appears that it is sOAZ that has often come out on top.
Well, there's always, of course, a little bit of an experience gap. Funny to talk about when Odoamne's been around in the European LCS, as long as I've been actually casting at this point, but sOAZ has been around longer, man. Yeah. Holding that record for most games played.
And they still fight atop the European LCS. Really goes to show how much talent these two individuals do have and how well they've been able to maintain it across so many years, especially with so much of the new talent that we constantly see here in Europe.
Yeah, and it's really nice to see Odo kind of back in form too. There were a lot of question marks early on, and Analyst was talking about it. We were wondering what had happened to Odo, and he really stepped up yesterday. I want to see if he's able to continue that on this Cho'Gath.
And that's the big thing. Can he continue it? Because it's one thing to have a good game. Pirate, we all have good games. I've seen you play your Singed, and multiple times you often die more than you get kills. But that one game, you carry the whole thing. And the question is, can you do it twice in a row? And the same comparison will be set up here against Odoamne. Can he be that consistent threat for Splyce and be that second carry alongside Kobbe?
Well, I hope he has better luck than me. Never happens in my promos, I'll guarantee you that much.
So now we've seen a lot of early trading going back and forth in the lanes. A lack of early action, very much what we expected. But an early CS lead coming out in favor of Nisqy, an individual that we've actually thrown a lot of criticism towards during the early portions of the split. His laning phase was arguably one of his weakest moments, but it feels like he's putting up a lot of effort, or a lot of success so far, rather, up against Caps in this early game.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, Nisqy has definitely been, you know, maybe a little bit of a question mark. We've seen in a pool of talented mid laners, he's not really stood out, but a couple of performances, some creative picks. We saw his Twisted Fate choice, and this is obviously one of his more played champions in the Azir. But Caps is a scary mid laner, and I don't know if the farm differential is going to put him off trying to make a play.
Well, speaking of farm differentials, we've got to swing back down towards the bot side, where Kobbe is continuing to extend the CS lead, as Broxah again looks for another gank up in the top lane.
All right, let's see. Broxah waiting and waiting. There's already a flash burned. Just trying to find the right moment to go in. In the meantime, Xerxe is actually going to get spotted, so Broxah gets cold feet here. Doesn't want to go in when there's a Jax in play. Let's go back to that bottom lane. You were talking about the farm differential, just the player differential in general. Like, Kobbe versus Rekkles, these guys have actually both been incredible for their teams. Rekkles, it's kind of an obvious statement, but Kobbe was sort of like the win condition for Splyce in a lot of their matches.
Kobbe, he arrived in the EU LCS back in 2016. He has a lot of experience himself. This is his 5th split in the EU LCS, and I feel like he's been a very solid AD carry, but he's never really been able to stand out on the Splyce roster that he's so very regularly been a part of. Now in this new roster, and with Splyce that was kind of built around him, he's really been able to stand out. And just look at some of the CS numbers and stats that he had across the board. He was sitting at first and really sitting at the top of the AD carry line.
Yeah, and while he's obviously a very skilled player, I do want to give a lot of credit for some of his statistics to kaSing. This guy really makes carries look great. And I think it's not like he's inflating Kobbe stats or anything, but behind every great AD carry is, of course, going to be a fantastic support.
That's very true, but the reason why we compared Kobbe to Rekkles is because this guy's no slouch either. Over the last couple of weeks, yes, his performance has been... Ooh, hang on.
Hello.
Bit of an all-in there from Hylissang.
Hylissang said he had something to prove there. Flash for flash. 2 flashes actually burned, or flash and heal, I should say. Rekkles healed one up.
So really wanted to get a bit of pressure put down onto Kobbe. Love the all-in there from Fnatic's bottom lane. Will cost them a couple of summoner spells, but Hylissang still has the Hex Flash. But coming back to our point, this guy is someone you can often rely on. The question is, now that he's got no summoner spells, could he lose his life?
Yeah, he might just do. Counter-strike. Oh, however, it's the counter gank, and they found the Jax. Xerxe in some trouble. Was able to flash away, but didn't expect that one. Meanwhile, though, didn't expect that at all. Under tower, sOAZ getting the kill off onto Odoamne. That's first blood.
Oh my word, sOAZ does it again. When Fnatic and Splyce met in the first half of the season, sOAZ got a solo kill onto Odo, and now they meet once more, and he does it this time around. Let's look at how this played out. He has the level advantage. He's not going to land the knock-up onto the pillar, but he does have his ultimate. He feels confident that he can go for the chase. Even after the nerfs, so much damage comes down from this Ornn. Odo doesn't have his flash, and so sOAZ, he doesn't need Ignite. He's able to get a solo kill down onto Odo.
Man, yeah, this is so sOAZ, right? The ISO deaths, the solo kills. The dude plays on an island of his own before the game really gets into that team fighting phase, and he doesn't care if he dies because he knows he's going to get the kill.
Yeah, this guy, sOAZ, you can just never afford to underestimate him.
Never change. The dude's been playing longer than anybody in the LCS, and he does the same thing.
Wow, what a veteran. Great stuff there from sOAZ, but on the other side, Odo. Pyra, I feel like this is like one of those 1-9 Singe games that I was talking to you about.
Don't tell my score.
Odo, he ends up dying in
I've seen your Katarina games.
But unfortunately, Odo, he's not looking to have that same sort of carry performance that he did have yesterday, already being put behind, struggling in the farm department. Typically, you would expect Cho to have the pressure in this 1 versus 1, but it is sOAZ coming out on top.
Yeah, and it's already resulting in a huge farm differential there as well. The Negatron Cloak's picked up, so he's going to be able to block some of the AP damage. I wonder if this is maybe the moment for Xerxe to try and take a trip up top. He went bot earlier on. It didn't really pay out for him. But Fnatic taking the gold lead in this game just shy of the 10-minute mark. sOAZ easily dodging out the Rupture. Bellows Breath dealing a little extra damage. And once again, sOAZ just getting bopped around. He's got flashback. Not going to use it.
Looks like sOAZ going for an early Abyssal Mask. Makes sense with the amount of AP on the side of Splyce. But now I feel like we're reverting back to a Splyce roster that we've seen before. Pyra, not a huge amount of investment towards the top side. A lot of scaling, a lot of early farming. Early deficits is definitely something that we are not too unfamiliar with regards to this Splyce roster.
Splyce definitely drafting for some solid team fights, as well as maybe trying to get themselves into the later stages of the game, but they've got to get their Odoamne getting bullied. Xerxe and Nisqy are going buddy system here, but what are they looking for? It looks like just to get a little extra vision in, they sweep out the one in the river brush. We haven't really seen that much going on in the mid lane, to be honest. As I say it, a little bit of extra poke damage coming out. Caps, that blue buff, not having to worry too much
And you
about his regen.
Now Broxah looking for another gank. He has been fairly active this game so far. He had the counter gank down bot. He had the gank up top.
Speaking
now
of,
Fnatic looking to extend the pressure towards the top side.
All right, Odoamne burning flash, sOAZ getting for the dive. Caps sees the kill. Can he grab it right now? Blocking from the minions, but a phosphorus bomb comes on, and that Cho'Gath gets conked in the head. sOAZ is going to pick up kill number 2. That's Splyce trying to capitalize with the dragon, but we're not out of action just yet. Broxah throwing the Glacial Prison and the Glacial Fissure, and the Monsoon is not enough to keep Kobbe alive. kaSing gonna have to burn his own flash as Rekkles gets a kill for himself. Fnatic off to a great start. The Cavalry's here too late.
It is Fnatic that are finding these early game advantages. Broxah setting up a gank down in the bottom lane. Caps using his TP to set up sOAZ even further for success. I love this teamwork coming out from Fnatic, getting a significant early game lead and shutting down Splyce very early on.
Talk about proactivity, man. Fnatic, they can gank 2 lanes at once. Nicely played by them, and nice kill picked up by sOAZ, one by Rekkles. It'll help them buy a little more of those items. We're also starting to see some of the item spikes come out. The good old Corki Trinity Force for Caps.
Oh man, I mean, I'm a little in 2 minds right now, Pyra, because I was expecting more from Splyce. I was kind of looking forward, is this the turning point? Halfway mark in the split? Are we suddenly going to see a Splyce that many expected to be like a really top performer here in Europe? You have so many veteran names. This was one of the few rosters that didn't really have rookies. Every single name on this list you would consider to have a highlight moment in their career. And yes, they started off slow. They didn't get off to a great start, but after yesterday's performance, everyone's eyes were like, okay, this is it. Maybe they can do it, especially taking down Vitality. But then today, they go up against Fnatic. They decide not to draft towards the early game, and they just revert back to that style of just literally doing nothing in the early portions of the map, and it's giving Broxah all this free reign to so effectively punish them that he's been finding ganks left, right, and center, and now Fnatic have a 3k gold lead and only 13 minutes into the game.
Yeah, that's pretty monumental at this point. Honestly, all Splyce really have to show for it is the fact that they were able to sneak away an Ocean Drake. That'll come in handy in the later stages of the game, but at this rate, it might not get there. Cap's taking some extra damage out of Nisqy here. Splyce just have been unable to find any serious openings. And yeah, one flash in the pan of a game, but now it looks like it's going back to the old habits. The question is, can they hang on?
Well, that is the question. Splyce, I feel, are a team that's been great at stalling. They do have a lot of wave clear, even with the Cho'Gath in the top, so they're going to try and delay this game as long as possible. What we've been seeing from Fnatic recently is their ability to force and utilize early game leads very effectively. So it's going to be a battle between, can Splyce successfully mitigate the pressure from Fnatic, or can Fnatic keep their foot on the accelerator for the rest of the game?
I want to see what Xerxe ends up doing as well on this Jax. We'll take a look. Oh, there's a flash forward. Hylissang get the knockup and the ignite onto kaSing. True shot barrage coming through, and they pick off the support. Kobbe isolated. Broxah's not even needed in all of that.
So remember when I said, can they take their foot or keep their foot on the accelerator? I feel like they just put it into third, Pirate. These guys are not slowing down. They get another kill down into the bottom lane, and Fnatic, they have their eyes set on the first tower of the game.
Nisqy trying to force Caps out through this choke point, but Fnatic should be able to pretty easily get some serious damage on that. Caps is in a little bit of danger right here, but he does use the package Valk to get away. Meanwhile, Fnatic, 3 members strong on the bottom side. Xerxe and Kobbe can really only stand and watch, trying to send a few more shots their way. And while all that's happening, Fnatic 2-manning on this Rift Herald. Talk about not letting up on the gas. They just keep going all over the map.
Splyce, they're going to have to rely on the wave clear of Nisqy and Kobbe right now to be able to delay this game long enough to get to those item spikes where they can look to try and force a couple of team fights. But even then, I'm curious as to how they're going to make this Jax work. Because you look at his team fight value, you compare it across the board to someone like a Sejuani, and he just doesn't offer the same kind of utility. Speaking of utility, let's look at how Hylissang was able to set up this kill onto kaSing. He stood a little too far forward. Typically, the range supports want to stand behind their AD carries, and he ends up getting so very quickly collapsed upon. Believe his flash was unavailable, should have shown a little more respect to the all-in power of Fnatic, and as a result, he does not, ends up losing his life.
And this is where we're starting to see that dual lane of Fnatic really stepping it up. There were questions how well was Rekkles going to be able to synergize with Hylissang after, you know, we didn't quite see that in the early couple of weeks of the split, but now they're playing really well together, and the fact that they're doing this to the likes of Kobbe and kaSing, who have been 2 of Splyce's best performers, is incredible.
And Nisqy, while he has had a much better laning phase, Caps has recognized, you know what, I don't need to win this lane. I can take my pressure elsewhere. I can try and make plays across the map. And he's been doing a great job so far. Again, still giving praise to Nisqy. Feel like his early game has been good, but his real value is going to come in these team fights. And I wonder how easy it's going to be for Splyce to force those and really set this guy up for success.
Yeah, seems like that's the proper win condition right now to stop this bleeding. They have the tools to make it happen. This is a team that has a lot of CC, too. If they can lock down a member, if they get a pick, man, that can be real quick. You can Chains of Corruption, Emperor's Divide, the Counter-Strike.
Very true.
You know, it's just a list you can keep on going.
Now they're sending 4 members to the bot side. Splyce want to try and answer some of the early aggression that Fnatic have been outputting. Taking advantage of the poor wave clear on Ezreal in these early levels. But here,
damage.
Is this a TP? Yes, it is.
So as incoming, and kaSing is going to have to flash immediately. The Tornado knocks up 2 hovers. Xerxe looking in for the Counter-Strike. Caps has already dodged away from it. Teleport's going to complete the dodge away from Broxah's ultimate, but forces the Monsoon out. And kaSing is still going to fall. Squishy support that he is. sOAZ on the front line, and that tower is not going to last long as Fnatic. It's a party in the bot lane. And down goes that tower. And Odoamne, meanwhile, just dealing with Shelly.
Bit of a questionable TP there from Caps, being forced to use his flash the moment that he arrives. But the reason sOAZ delayed his TP was because he was dropping the Rift Herald down in the middle lane. Taking a chunk of damage out, Fnatic secure themselves a second tower, set themselves up nicely for their 3rd and final one, as Xerxe goes in.
Yes, he does. Let's see if they got the damage, courtesy of Cho'Gath. They do. Odoamne polishing off Caps, but sOAZ and Broxah are here to try and turn things around just a little bit. sOAZ could not save the life of his mid laner. True shot barrage coming in, clips onto Kobbe. Splyce still trying to angle for an opening. No towers for this team just yet, and they're in danger of losing all of their outers.
Splyce finally get themselves on the board. Punish the fact that Caps did not have his flash. Let's have a look back. So this TP, this is typically why you never really want to TP on squishy kind of mid laners, because it's very easy to get a collapse down upon you, especially if you're trying to be the one flanking. But fortunately, sOAZ then arrives. His initiation on the Ornn is strong enough to get the chase down onto a flashless Janna. But then Caps he's not expecting Xerxe to go for the all-in play. The chain CC coming out from Fnatic is more than enough to secure that kill. They even get the flash out from sOAZ as well. So at the very least, Splyce get themselves something back, but it's still a 4,000 gold deficit.
Yeah, Splyce are going to have their work cut out for them, but we have seen that they have some fight in them yet. Kill onto Odoamne as well. It'll help him out a little bit since he was stymied in the laning phase for the most part up against the likes of sOAZ. Nisqy just a wave clearing away in the mid. It's going to be hard for Fnatic to try and knock that one down, but sOAZ is now isolated. We talked about this, isolated deaths and solo kills. It fits the script pretty perfectly. Now, can he stay alive before Broxah arrives? I don't think he's going to be able to.
Never change, sOAZ. Never change.
If only he had his TP, he would have escaped in the nick of time. How many times have we seen that play, man?
Oh, man. This guy, he's just been playing the same way for so long. He makes these great highlight reels, and then he's just overextending in a side lane without the support of his team. They cannot capitalize on anything, and he ends up making a mistake.
Yeah. Come on, sOAZ. That's Rekkles' job. Not anymore, anyways. Ah, we got to pause. Guess Fnatic didn't like my joke.
I didn't like your joke, Pyro.
Wow, that hurts.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
First you insult my sin.
I like your
then you don't
puns.
my
I think
humor.
your puns are good. I think your singed is... anyway.
Don't finish that sentence. Let's get back to this game and stop talking about mine. So Splyce had a couple of good plays here, and they're still trying to last out for late game. This is the old Splyce strategy, not the new and improved 27-minute win Splyce. We're getting closer and closer to that game time anyways.
Yes. And finding 2 kills is definitely what Splyce wants, because they want to try and mitigate. They want to limit the early snowball that Fnatic are already setting up for themselves. Taking 2 towers this early on is definitely not the situation that Splyce ideally would have liked, but Fnatic effectively using the strength that Ezreal does have at this point in the game, the Trinity Force power spike on the Corki, the fact that sOAZ was able to successfully win out on the 1v1, a lot of good things being done from Fnatic, and Splyce are going to rely on the wave clear. You have the Janna shielding that can be thrown on top of the towers for an extra bit of damage and survivability. You've got a Varus and an Azir who also provide just a lot of damage to kill minions, stop them getting close to the tower. And then you've also got the Cho'Gath, and every time you overstep, you get a little too close. A single silence into a single knockup can result in a very fast pick that Fnatic obviously don't want to lose. So many tools available for Splyce, which is why, again, Pyra, I'm sure you can guess, the ban will be a big objective that Fnatic will look to force.
I did not know that. That's okay. So in the middle of this game right now, what we have going on, there's a pause because Caps just disappeared off the map, apparently. So he was the one pulling a Houdini. So Observer's unable to see him. We are restarting his client. And we'll be back in the game shortly. That's going to be a little disorienting, as you can see.
So Caps can't see himself, or we can't see him?
I'm actually not sure. I'm still waiting from word about specifically what he can see.
All we know is
Observers can't see him.
All we know is that Caps right now has gone poof. He's not dead, though. I can confirm.
He will be back.
He is alive. He will be returning to the Summoner's Rift to continue his battle. And Fnatic's climb to the top. Currently at a 6-3 record.
4 games in a row they've won.
Yes, they have. Not quite the same record as G2, who extended their win streak to 6-0 and made their way at the top of the standings. But Caps very confidently yesterday said in PGL that Fnatic will end first. He said that we will be atop of the standings. We think we're playing really well right now. It took us a little while to introduce some of the new things that Joey brought, former coach of G2. He said, you know, we were still figuring stuff out. We still wanted to be a better team overall, rather than just having to rely on Rekkles. And over the first few weeks, yes, they did have to rely on Rekkles a little bit. There was a bit of miscommunication between Caps and Rekkles as to who should be the big carry. But now we're seeing individual members not only step up, but also a great essence of teamwork. The bot lane seems to be far more consistent from Rekkles and Hylissang. Caps seems to either carry or just fill his role whenever he needs to. sOAZ is getting solo kills left, right, and center. And Broxah, his early pressure and his teamfight presence seems to be very effective. So Fnatic, what was a very rough start to the split, seems to have integrated these new methods and now seem to be functioning as a very healthy team.
Yeah, it was great. Took them a little while to get the growth, but they found it now, and looks like the issue has been found out and resolved. We're getting back in a game in just a few moments.
So can we see Caps? Here we go, the moment of truth.
We can see Nisqy.
We can see Caps on the mini-map, but the true question, is he visible to the eye? That's sOAZ.
We gotta check top lane. That's normally where sOAZ is.
That is normally where he's just respawned.
There he is.
There we go. We
he's
can
got
now
package
see
too.
Caps. Successful.
All right,
Wonderful.
excellent. Oh, no!
Maybe he
Well, we
can't
can see him at least.
We can see him.
He just wants to deliver the package, man.
So we talked a lot about Fnatic. While we get this pause resolved, this gives us an opportunity to talk a little bit more about their opposition in Splyce. Yesterday, we did see a fantastic early game from them. We saw a couple of tweets from the members saying like, hey guys, you can see we can clearly play early game. We have a great early game. A lot of good banter. And I feel like that Splyce still... I'm not sure what to think about them, Pyra. Like, I was expecting a little bit more consistency from this roster, and I was expecting some new play styles from them. But
we saw one yesterday.
Yeah, we saw it yesterday, but they seem to have reverted back to a style, and now they're just being punished in the same way that Vitality punished them last week, where due to their lack of proactivity and action in the early game, they tend to just fall into these early deficits and are reliant on stalling the game out, focusing on wave clear, and just waiting for those late game items where they can then look to try and win a team.
Yeah, they never want to be one-dimensional, right? Because it allows people to just play against your strengths all the time. And you keep doing this and teams are going to figure it out. But Splyce have always done things at least a little bit differently. I mean, you got to think, if you're Fnatic coming into this game, what they did yesterday is just so out of character, out of the ordinary, that maybe they were going to try it again. Instead, we got the same type of draft. We got the same type of play. And Splyce have done it so many times. The fact that they've been able to come back is impressive in and of itself. But you don't win championships by losing the early game every single time. Now, to update you guys on what's going on, this time it was sOAZ that went poof.
Yes.
So Fnatic are playing a lot of magic tricks right now.
Just saw Broxah reconnecting also to make sure, you know what, I do not wish to poof. Therefore, I will preemptively restart to avoid said poofing. The planning there.
I've got another update for you though, Vedius. It sounds like Fnatic are all experiencing the same bonus count. So they've gone 5-man poof, which is great team synergy, by the way. But unfortunately, it means a little bit more confusion.
I've never heard anyone say Fnatic have gone 5-man poof. Oh, that was wonderful. Thank you for that, Pyra.
Oh, you're welcome, mate.
So, while we get through the pause, just to remind people the current state of the game, 34.2k to Fnatic to the 29.9 of Splyce. About a 4k gold advantage in favor of Splyce. 5-2 in kills also in the favor of Fnatic. 2 towers to 0 in favor of Fnatic, and the pause will now be lifted. So hopefully everyone can be seen. Looks like, well, you will evaluate if you can see them.
We got a third one. Okay, we're 3 for 3 on the day. Everyone is still poof. Yeah. At least that is my assumption at this point.
Because I just looked at my spectator cloud, I'm like, I can no longer see Caps. He has disappeared.
A little bit too much razzle-dazzle in this game, but yeah, a little bit of an odd one.
Definitely a unique one.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of interesting bugs in the time, and that is kind of up there with one of them, just completely disappearing team.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I've seen a couple of non-bug disappearing teams where you've had like crazy, like last game, some decisive team fights.
Yes, that's very true, and I imagine this game will eventually get to a lot of crazy team fights. But just to update you guys, same issue. Fnatic experiencing some bugs right now in terms of actually being able to see their characters, but also, even if they can see their characters, sometimes the spectators can't see their characters, and we would very much like to talk about said characters and make sure that everything
that would make casting like, that's like super hard mode casting, but yeah, 2 Fnatic players decided not to restart, but they actually had to, so we're kind of like double readying it up. So this time, everyone restarting things and making sure it gets working again. However,
on the bright side, Splyce not poofing.
No, they are not.
They're still with us.
I mean, they're still in the gold deficit. That's the not bright side.
That's also very true. They extended between the second pause and third pause. They extended their gold from 29.9 to 30. So on the
that's efficient. They got stuff done.
But they're still behind 4.3k gold behind Fnatic.
Okay, that's not so good.
Yeah, not so good for them.
But it's comfort mode, right? Because Splyce know how to play from these deficits. They've done it so often. Still found these wins. I mean, and that's the crazy thing about this team, that they've been able to do it so many times.
Well, let's see if they can do it again. Hopefully this time round, we will be able to resolve the issue. It does look like they're just doing a couple tests right now, making sure that everyone can see everyone and everything.
And the dragon also goes poof, but not in a bug sense.
So our observers can see everything. That's what's important. This is what matters. Fnatic secure themselves another tower, extending the tower lead. So Fnatic still in control of the map.
All right, we are back into this one now. 4 members. Nisqy, his tower is not going to be long for the world. Hylissang popping forward, tries to proc the Winter's Bite onto him, but nothing doing. So that's 4 towers for Fnatic to the 1 that Splyce have managed to get. Still in damage control mode for this team, trying to clear wards out of their own jungle. If they want to win this game, they will have to come right back into it. They want to tie up Fnatic's record. keep them from getting further to the top of the table. Splyce have some work to do.
Yes, they do. Baron is now up and ready to be taken. The battle for the big objective will likely be a pivotal point for Fnatic. We saw it earlier in the day from many teams, making sure that when you have this Ezreal in the late game, you could argue that against a champion like Varus, your scaling is relatively even. But the thing is, with Rageblade being pretty effective against tanks, not in the sense that it shreds through tanks, but the thing about Rageblade versus typical crit items is the longer fights goes, the more value it has, because you build up these stacks, you get a lot of bonus damage, and in terms of DPS, you actually do more than crit items. So in extended fights, especially against tanks, it gets really easy to stack it up, and then when you land that single hit onto a carry, oof, you hit really hard.
And that is exactly what Splyce have built their composition to do. It's not just the Varus, it is also going to be that Azir on Nisqy, the damage over time. Not to mention the Jax. I mean, he can just tonk away at everybody.
Exactly that.
Over and over again.
He is running the Jax God skin, the newly released one, rather than the classic SKT one. Oh, it might be even the Type A Assassin skin.
Ooh.
But that very satisfying sound.
Yeah, the cup one.
Yes, exactly that. So unfortunately, won't be feeling that. But he has completed his Sheen now. Remember, typically, why you like Jax into tanky junglers is because you have the ability to free farm. Your jungler's often not contested. But given the early deficits that Splyce have been put into, it's been a little harder for Xerxe to get really the farm that he wants. But also all the towers that they've lost have allowed Broxah to just have this natural gold advantage, which is why he's already completed his warm-ups.
Yes, indeed. Now him and sOAZ will definitely need those warm-ups to try and withstand some of the damage that we were just talking about on the Splyce side. Fnatic still strengthening their grip vision-wise on this side of the jungle, but Xerxe still placing a couple wards here and there. Now, Splyce definitely don't want to take a fight straight up. They would need a pick to be able to turn things in their favor, especially when Caps is in the mix. The dude's sporting the Trinity Force on top of his Infinity Edge.
Yeah, this dude did have a great performance on the Corki yesterday against Sjokz. He got a multitude of solo kills onto Leduc. And
some of them were assisted by Leduc himself.
But now we got to transition over to the Baron, because look, Fnatic, they're just starting this one off.
Yeah, that was quick. Very decisive play here, and now Splyce kind of caught sleeping for just a second. The Jax is nowhere near this one, but there is a teleport coming in. Fnatic might have to fight for this. Redemption coming in, and Fnatic, they're going to look to turn this fight around. The Baron all but forgotten for just a second, but sOAZ coming in, finding Kobbe here, and maybe the Baron was all a bait as sOAZ finds the AD carry. Splyce scattered to the winds.
Fnatic, they simply used the Baron as a bait, and now they're looking to extend the fight. A lot of engaged tools were used, so they will just steal away some of these neutral objectives, but Fnatic, once again, come out on top.
Yeah, they blow away Kobbe, even getting both of his summoner spells, and it's right back to the Baron. This time, Splyce are going to be aware of it. Not actually started, they just cleared out the vision instead.
They just want to bait Splyce towards the objective, maybe find themselves another fight, but with a lot of the ultimates that were used, they do not want to extend this any longer. They're going to be happy with the kill. They got the TP out from Odoamne. Fnatic, they are happy chappies. Now, I wondered whether or not Splyce would commit to the Baron here, because when you have a Cho'Gath TPing in and multiple members actually diving out, I figured maybe both Xerxe and the Cho would look to actually just finish off the Baron, but the TP gets cancelled, the rest of Fnatic collapse down onto Kobbe. Splyce can't really gain anything else off the back of it, and instead just lose all these neutral objectives along with vision control around the Baron area.
Yeah, it was very low on that Baron, but it seemed that Splyce kind of had split focus, realizing, oh no, the fight's coming to us this time. We can't actually turn it. You can see Xerxe pulling almost a 180, trying to get the hell out of there as soon as Fnatic were on top of them. And still in the driver's seat, this team is Caps chasing Nisqy away. He's got the package on as well, so it makes this easy escape, or maybe try and get a kill, but Odoamne is here as well. Broxah, kaSing is going to get caught out. He wandered right in. There's a burst damage is huge. Broxah just smashes him.
You could say that kaSing went poof right there. He did not have his flash available. He face-checked the brush. One of the biggest mistakes anyone can make in League of Legends.
And he did it on Janna. Oh,
did it on Janna. Now Fnatic, they've grouped up in Splyce's jungle. They're looking for more picks.
See, that is how you check a brush. Good job, Xerxe.
Oh, and Splyce, they're being spread thin right now. All three lanes pushing in favor of Fnatic. sOAZ has grouped with his team because Cap still has the TP. Splyce feel that something mysterious is going on. There's a redemption to spot this one out.
Okay. Gonna turn it around and, ooh, immediately finding the Cho'Gath on the call. The Forge got Odoamne flashing away as sOAZ tries to go in. Caps around the side, gets chunked incredibly low, but the rest of the team has arrived. Chains of Corruption are on. Do they have the damage to make it happen, though? Xerxe jumping into the mix. Fnatic burning a little bit low here as Hylissang will be the first casualty on their side, but Xerxe as well. Emperor's Divide, Nisqy pushing the back. Monsoon to keep this team healthy. It's a 1-for-1 fight so far. Support for top lane.
So Fnatic tried quite hard there to force the fight. Rather than just going for the Baron, they could have been happy with the flash that was used from Odo, but instead they wanted more. And this was actually a pretty good situation for Splyce because they could look for the turnaround fight. When Odoamne is the focus rather than Kobbe, that allows him to actually dish out the damage that he is designed to do. This means that he had a good chain of corruption on the back end. Nisqy is freely able to deal all this damage. And then Xerxe can just come in uncontested, allowing Splyce to get through the support from Fnatic. Good Emperor's Divide allows Splyce to disengage from the fight and be happy with the fact that they get themselves a kill on the board and don't lose the Baron to Fnatic.
Yeah, disengage from Splyce, something they've definitely been solid at, pointed out on the desk earlier today. As we get 26.5 minutes into this game, there's still a sizable gold lead for Fnatic. A lot of that, though, is towers. A lot of that is also kills. They've kept Fnatic away from the all-important objective. We've seen Splyce come back so many times from a gold deficit. If they could do it against Fnatic, that would be huge.
It really would be. Splyce, we talked about their record. They want to try and make their way up into the upper echelons of the league. And a win against Fnatic would certainly be a big statement piece, equalizing the score, closing the gap between the top contenders of G2 and Vitality right now.
See what they do here. 3 members strong on the mid. Jax coming around the side as well. Fnatic not keen to give it up, though. Remember, Splyce still only have the 1 tower. That could change if they win a big fight. But it still seems like Fnatic aren't taking any chances. Very slippery carries here on the Corki and the Ezreal.
Odo needs to be careful on the bot side. He doesn't have flash, does have TP. Figured that maybe Caps could look for a roam down bot, but instead he's going to stay grouped up with his team. Their eyes are still dead set on this Baron. They know they're stronger right now, but Splyce very quickly catching up. The gold deficit is pretty significant, but once Azir gets 3 items, that doesn't mean he's not going to do damage. Corki might do more, but you can't afford to underestimate this Nisqy in these team fights as the game gets later and later.
Especially considering all the fights we've seen have been these like longer affairs when Splyce has gotten the better of it, just poking over time. That's the Azir, that's the Jax, and of course Kobbe as well. Fnatic, good old strat for them with the Death Brush, 3 members. kaSing has learned his lesson, however. Not going too deep to check without any backup, trying to get some vision down.
So look at this from Xerxe. He's adapted his build due to the recognition of how far behind his team currently is. Going for the Iceborne Gauntlet still gives him the Sheen proc and the synergy of Sheen with Xerxe, but Iceborne is slightly cheaper and gives you that slightly extra bit of tankiness. So he's changed his build to the traditional Trinity Force because he's recognized that, oh no, we're behind, and I need to do something about it. So guys in solo queue at home, recognize this, because when you're playing that Lee Sin and you still want to build that 3rd item Duskblade, maybe if your team is behind, you just need to pivot and get a little bit tanky.
You don't always have to follow pro builds to the letter.
Exactly.
All right, so Xerxe mixing things up, showing people what to do if you find yourselves in a bad situation. Splyce also picked themselves up another dragon. This time it's going to be the Cloud Drake. So they actually have a lot of speed outside of combat as well as regeneration. There haven't been these really team-fighting impactful dragons that have spawned this game, but in order for Splyce to kind of find those rotations, this is exactly what they need.
Having a bit of extra mobility, especially when you know that the enemy team is so aggressively positioning towards this Baron, is always going to offer some value, but the TP up and ready for sOAZ. He's going to be sitting off on a side lane, ready to join the fray should Fnatic look to try and force something. I wonder if Fnatic will look to be as audacious as they have been so far this game. They already just started 2 Barons right off the get-go, but Nisqy grouping up with the side laner.
It does seem like Fnatic have pumped the brakes just a little bit. Early on in this game, they had so much pressure to apply. Now Odoamne is trying to look tasty, and in comes Nisqy, still waiting on an Emperor's Divide. There it goes, shoving sOAZ back, and nom nom. Odoamne getting the final kill, getting some revenge for earlier in the game. That's 50 seconds to work with for the Splyce boys.
Very quickly killed. sOAZ, another isolated death to add to the list, and Fnatic are not able to punish. So now Splyce can group up as a 5-man unit and look to try and force down mid.
All right, True Shot Barrage, Rekkles trying to clear away the wave and prevent Splyce from taking the mid tower. question is, do they maybe try and opt for this Baron, package Valk away, Caps is retreated.
Very dangerous to start the Baron off. Yes, you have the Cho'Gath, but his ultimate is on cooldown right now. sOAZ going to be spawning in about 19 seconds and has the TP available. I think their goal is simply to get a bit more vision and control around the objective and stall. Remember, Pyro, we talked a lot about Splyce's goal is very much about just delaying the game as long as possible. The onus is on Fnatic to make the play happen.
That was a great play, though, by Nisqy to recognize that sOAZ so far out of position, isolated as his tendency is. Now they've sent Caps down instead towards the bottom to try and clear up. Fnatic do grab a lot of vision back on the Baron pit, but Splyce doing it, executing that stall tactic.
It's important to acknowledge, though, that typically what would happen is if you're sending 2 members bot, the 4-man unit of Fnatic should be able to rush towards the Baron and force it down. But when Odoamne so quickly kills sOAZ and also has TP available, if Fnatic started, there's the risk that they end up getting collapsed on and then they could even lose the Baron. So they end up in this lose-lose situation, which was a really good move from Splyce to be able to stall the game out a little bit longer and just buy time towards these later game items, which we can now see are starting to come in for players like Nisqy.
Yes, indeed. Already had that Stinger, the Landry's Torment, but he adds needlessly large rod on top of his Void Staff there, by comparison. He'll get a lot more damage over time, and Azir in the late game is definitely nothing to sneeze at. We've talked a lot this game about the Corki damage. Added a rapid fire cannon since the last time we mentioned it, so it's kind of interesting how quiet that mid lane actually has been while things were going on in every other side lane. Nisqy had held his own for the most part because of it.
It's very true. And eyes are going to be on Rekkles once again. He's had a great game so far. Both him and Hylissang have pretty effectively dominated this bottom lane with a bit of assistance from Broxah. But you're getting to a point in the game where it's going to be harder for Ezreal to output damage against that front line of a Cho'Gath. The shielding from kaSing going to mitigate a lot of the poke that's going to be coming out from this Ezreal. So we'll see how much contribution he can have in these fights, as Odo could be in some trouble.
Yeah, Cap's trying to chase him down, dodges out on the Rupture. That is a lot of damage. Packing away at his health bar, but Odoamne, pretty soon his Warmogs will kick in and he'll be able to shrug it off. There are 2 members of Fnatic, though, trying to push down this tier 2 in the bottom side. Now Caps finally accomplishes it. Odoamne unable to hold the line here. Broxah once again maintaining vision of the Baron pit. Splyce still giving ground, but slowly.
Fnatic 5 towers to 1 over Splyce. That is a 7,000 gold lead in their favor right now. Kleptomancy likely to be helping out a fair part of that. Cap sitting off on the side lane, setting up his own Fnatic Death Brush.
Certainly is a one-man Death Brush from Caps, as there's sOAZ hanging out in this brush while the rest of Fnatic hang around the mid. Call the Forge God coming out. Let's see if it gets knocked back. Nisqy trying to dodge away the Counter-Strike preemptively. No one wants to go in. Hylissang flashes. Caps, that's some serious burst damage. Big rocket hitting Xerxe in the back of the head. It's going to open up mid-tier 2. Fnatic, that is a lot of damage on their mid laner. Holy moly, allows them to net another tower. That is their 6th of the game.
Love the play there from Fnatic. Just utilizing the fact that Odo was stuck down in the bottom lane and they could force and engage with sOAZ. Sure, they couldn't find the kill, but they forced Splyce back and secure another tower. Now think about how much deeper they can go into Splyce's jungle to set up for this Baron, and things become harder for Splyce to stall. But now they only have to defend their base.
Ooh, forcing out Hylissang's ultimate. Odoamne, clutch use of the Rupture right inside the brush to check it. Fnatic, though, still owning much of this map here, but Splyce, they're not getting any weaker. Do they dare to try and find a fight? Hylissang's ultimate down, has only the Hex Flash if they were to catch on it, but Fnatic still trying and doing well at clearing away this mid wave. However, vision control of the Baron pit now going Splyce's way. For the moment.
Yeah, still a lot of deep wards in Splyce's jungle, which means that Fnatic should have a good idea. Engage from Fnatic.
Okay, they found Xerxe. The Counter-Strike is on. Let's see if they can melt through his health bar after the fact. And Redemption coming in, trying to keep Splyce alive. And Odoamne gets Redemption by killing sOAZ, but Caps is around the backside. Can he deliver the package into the team? No, he gets exhausted, tries to go out towards the rest of his own team. And Odoamne gets burned a little bit on the Valk trail, but that's it.
Successful punish there from Splyce. They very quickly chunk out sOAZ, and it's this Odoamne late game damage on the Cho'Gath. His ulti hits hard.
You don't need to build damage to do that. There's true damage on Odoamne, and
they just
ripped phase might have been rough.
Yeah, they just ripped through sOAZ there. Very quickly able to kill him, demonstrating the late game damage output of this Splyce team. They're still at a gold deficit, but they're still stalling Pyra. This game plan is very much what we've seen from Splyce in the past. You could argue, is it a strategy that exemplifies you as a good team, well, that's debatable. But if it gets you wins, that's what matters during the regular season. And you can see how hard they tried to commit onto the front line of Splyce, which meant that the back line could very easily just chip away at this front line. And we talk about how Rekkles, he's just tickling Odoamne at this point in the game. Caps his TPs in from the flank, but he's not really able to achieve anything either. And if Splyce can keep finding these picks, then they're going to get into a position where they'll start winning these successful 5v5 fights against Fnatic. And maybe they can swing this game around.
Yep. Although Splyce trying to be sneaky. It's kind of hard to hide a Cho'Gath that big at this point in the game. However, they are on top of the Baron. When do they decide to try and pull the trigger? If they want to force the fight, they have to be confident that they can take that 5v5 off against Fnatic. sOAZ is in the bot, but he's got his TP if he wants to answer.
All right, now remember how fast this Baron is. Cho'Gath, Azir, Varus. It's going
a lot of
quick.
damage. We'll see if they can get it done. It's going to get nommed up by the Cho. Now, can they get out of harm's way? Xerxe hops the wall. Yes, they can. Hit and run for Splyce.
Cheers of joy coming out from Splyce. The objective that Fnatic have been playing around for so long goes in the favor of their opposition. And while the gold gap does not close that much, this is a huge advantage gained for Splyce. We talked a lot about stalling, but now they should be in a position to finally make some plays happen.
Let's see if they can do it. 3 minutes on the clock for the Baron. 4 members in the middle. The Janna not far behind. There's been so much wave clear from this Ezreal, but I don't know if it's going to be enough this time. The Baron empowerment, they're not going to hard commit to it instead. Moving around the side once more. If they can win a fight, that tower score is starting to go will go topsy-turvy pretty quickly.
Well, that's definitely what Splyce want. That's where a lot of their gold deficit comes from. Blue buff will be secured for Nisqy, but they need to get control of these side lanes. Fnatic have done a great job of keeping pressure on all 3 lanes, making it difficult for Splyce to really extend their vision any deeper. Now we see the Fnatic Death Brush not going to be fallen for by Splyce. Instead, they're just using this Baron right now to buy a little bit more time for themselves.
Splyce know that Fnatic want to play around the mid. They've clearly been studying the game footage of what Fnatic has had success at over the last several weeks. What's enabled them to get 4 wins in a row is playing together, playing around that middle, but maybe they overestimated their own abilities right now. Odoamne getting chunked out, but the Redemption keeping him healthy, and they just turn it right around. Damage over time, baby. They find one. Broxah down for 44 more seconds. Splyce just slow marching in the mid.
And the thing for Splyce is their re-engage is so strong. These Varus ultimates are so effective at preventing Fnatic to just commit to the target that they lock down. We see Broxah throw out the ultimate. The moment he commits, Varus ulti comes out, Janna acts as peel, and then Splyce just wait for the prime opportunity to turn the fight back in their favor. They finally win a fight, going 1 for 0, but they still can't secure an objective, or maybe they can change that in the top lane.
There we go, Kobbe going full Legolas, just charging bolts into this tower, and there's really nothing Fnatic can do to answer for it. So at this point, you start to get those objectives sooner or later, Vedius. When you're winning those fights, it's kind of hard for the enemy team to stop you.
Exactly that now, Fnatic. Things are going to get challenging for them because, yes, they do have the late game power of the Corki, but this Ezreal going to start to fall off. We've already seen how much harder it is for him to hit through this Cho'Gath. Let's have a look. So, Fnatic, they tried to engage just straight up onto the front line of Splyce. Jax isn't quite in the fight yet. They throw everything they can onto the Cho. They think they can just rip through him, but the Redemption, the Peel, and then the re-engage coming out from the Varus. You think that you're tanky, but then you have a 700 true hit ultimate chunk through the majority of your front line. Funnily enough, it becomes a lot easier to kill the engagement that Fnatic is trying to set up for themselves.
And Splyce just have this so controlled team fighting style. They never bite off more than they can chew. There are so many chances for them to try and keep the engage going, to push far, but sometimes a team can do that and push their luck, and you can see they only got the 1 kill, they back down. Let's see if they are able to survive this fight. Odoamne taking up the entirety of Fnatic. He's going to give his life here. Maybe this is the chance for Fnatic to turn it around, but everyone has already backed away. Tower for top laner.
So Odoamne stays around a little too long, and Fnatic finally get the punish that they were looking for. They don't have a minion wave quite yet, but they do have their eyes set on this inhibitor, and think about how fast they take down these turrets.
Should be able to do it. However, the rest of Splyce trying to react a little bit late as they already backed away to get their health bars back up. Tower soon to fall. Trying to set up the disengage. Fnatic looking to poke in to grab inhibitor number 1. We've been 39+ minutes into this game, and this will be the first inhibitor of it. Fnatic are the ones that benefit, having knocked down so many towers.
So let's have a look back at how this happened. The good engage ultimate here from sOAZ provides enough CC to allow them to lock down Odoamne. This time, Splyce cannot go for the re-engage. Instead, they just choose to completely back off from the fight. Maybe if in that situation they'd gone for the full 5v5, they could have turned it around, but they didn't want to risk it. They're just going to accept the fact that they've lost their inhibitor. But now the Elder Dragon spawning in about 40 seconds, and you imagine that's going to be the big objective that Fnatic look to play around next.
It'll be one of those big fights for sure. So, Fnatic, the winning formula seems to be if you can take down the Cho'Gath, but also just crunching through the rest of the health bars. That true shot barrage of Rekkles was critical in that fight. Just to force Splyce to back off. Now, there's a big minion wave building in the top side. Fnatic already knocking down one inhibitor, looking to try and do the same up there before Elder spawns, but Odoamne should be able to have a feast on these minions.
Surprised that they didn't want to funnel more gold into Kobbe. Notice he's only level 17 right now, getting him to that 18 mark. Definitely going to be very valuable. Instead, they'll just let the Cho'Gath pick it up. I guess they're a little afraid of the potential sOAZ engage. He is towards the top side.
Oh, Caps just trying to play around that rupture, and sOAZ comes out of the woodwork here looking for Odoamne, but they don't have the pick on him. He's just too damn tanky.
Cho'Gath, man, super obnoxious. He even popped the stone plate, but now Fnatic have started the Elder Drake.
Double TP
Splyce
here.
is going on.
Okay, can Splyce get in here to respond? The Elder Dragon already down to about half his health bar. Preemptive strike on the True Shot Barrage. The Braum Q turns them away. Fnatic picked that one up. Clean play from this team.
Well secured from Fnatic. Splyce, they're going to be forced back into their base. The defense game continues once more. Fnatic, their next eyes will be on the Baron, and Splyce will want to stop it. They are at late game now. They have no more excuses. There's nothing left to wait for. If they're going to fight, now is the time. This is the moment they have been stalling for, Pyro.
Yes, indeed. But Fnatic, they're not getting any weaker. We've seen these item thresholds keep creeping up. And one thing that's great about an Ornn is the masterwork, being able to upgrade some things.
Very true.
As our good friend Atlas called it, the Abyssal Spec Ops mask comes in for sOAZ. All right, fight looks like to be started here. The Cho'Gath. Oh, chunked out. Oh, this is dead! This might be huge right now. The Monsoon comes a smidgen too late, and Fnatic trying to charge down the line, just muscling into the Splyce base. And all that stall, all that prevention, it might come to nothing here. That is inhibitor number 2. Fnatic on the Elder Dragon. Do they feel strong enough to keep the play going?
Splyce, they're going to do their best.
Let's see if they can hold on. Odoamne trying to get redemption, and it looks like kaSing's does come in to keep him alive for just a few more seconds. He's going to fall courtesy of Caps. Exhaust doesn't matter too much. Xerxe getting chunked out, trying desperately to get back to the fountain. Burns his flash, but that means the Nexus turrets are bare. And Fnatic turn on the heat when it matters the most. 7-11, this game has been going all day, baby. Xerxe trying to go in for a third wind, but it's the Nexus that's bare. Xerxe's going to fall, and Fnatic do it! 5-0 in the last few weeks. What a game ender!
It was touch and go there a little bit for Fnatic. They ended up losing the Baron. They started to lose these late game fights. But then it was sOAZ with the engage. They found the pick onto Odo. They secured that first inhibitor. That gave them control around the Elder. And then they found another pick onto Nisqy right at the very end. The key member that Splyce could not afford to lose ends up dropping his first death in the entire game, and it ends up losing Splyce the very important match.
Fnatic threading the needle on some skill shots there to take him down, and what a hard-fought win. You can see exhaustion on the faces of all players after that one as we end the week in a long, long game, 43 minutes plus. Thought that meta was moving towards faster games, Vedius. No, not this time.
Yep, but Splyce going back to their old style. Got to talk a little about Odo. Kind of a mixed game for him.
Yeah.
Dying in the 1 versus 1. Having some decent contribution in fights, utilizing his ultimate to chunk through the front line. But then he ended up with a scoreline of 5-5. So still got to hold out. Is Odo the second carry of this team? Is he the person that we're looking at to kind of step up for the roster? Because the main carry that we were looking at in Kobbe, he kind of got shut down during the laning phase.
Yeah, I mean,
very
he's playing
convincing
Varus,
performance.
but Hylissang and Rekkles were just on top of him the entire time.
Oh, they were. Oh, they were constantly going for the all-ins. They had a lot of support from Broxah as well. Feel like that the goal from Fnatic was, let's shut down this bottom lane because we've already gotten a small lead for topside, and rather than trying to shut down Nisqy, let's just move our mid laner around the map and just get as many advantages by shutting down the key carry for Splyce.
Yeah, recognizing the win condition and pulling it off. Now, in tonight's edition of the LCS post-game lobby, we're going to discuss if Vitality have been figured out, among other things. So we're going to go ahead and head it over to Sjokz and the guys.